Are you struggling to drift in Need for Speed Heat? Well, don't worry, because even I had problems drifting in Need for Speed Heat, and I've put so many hours into Ghost Games made Need for Speed games. I had a world record at one point in 2015 for a drift score I got on a track.
All types of bananas.
And the drifting in this game is not easy. It doesn't make a lot of sense if you come from, say, Forza or Assetto Corsa or something like that. Or just in real life drifting, you're going to struggle here because it's not really like real life in any way. But there is a few things you can do to go ahead and get better at drifting in Need for Speed Heat, so that's what we're going to go ahead and talk about in today's video. But before we go ahead and get into that, I want to say go ahead and make sure to subscribe. There's going to be so much Need for Speed Heat based content on the channel, so just stay locked. You already know what it is. Arguably the most important element of drifting in this game is the car you're going to use. Now, I've used a handful of cars. I've used the Legends Edition 350Z, I've used the RX-7, I used the M2, the M4, and what I've basically found is any of the cars from the previous games which were really OP are really good in this game again. So if you haven't already used the RX-7, that is quite hands down the best drift car in this game. Cars to avoid are cars that, you know, in real life, I guess, are a little bit heavy. So you want to avoid things like the M2, like the M4, heavy feeling cars. They're not going to cut it in this. You're going to want cars that are light and feel light in the game. The Huracan is also one which I am terrified to use because it's so good. So good, but the RX-7's also up there on the same level as the Huracan. Once you've done that, obviously you're going to want to go ahead and tune your car. Just make sure your settings are all the way to drift. Whether you want to make it an off-road build or you want to make it an on-road build is completely up to you. Doesn't really matter. These tips are still going to apply. With the off-road drifting, all I have to say is basically you're going to have to slow down what you're doing a bit more, take a bit more time when you're entering corners and stuff, because you're not going to be gaining as much momentum when you're going into the corners. One thing you're also going to want to do before you go ahead and get into this is in the live tuning, which you can bring up by pressing right on your D-pad, the steering sensitivity all the way to the right and the downforce all the way to the left. You can also choose if you want to use brake to drift or gas-based drifting. I would personally use gas-based drifting, which is essentially clutch kicking. Clutch kicking is essentially when you double stamp the right trigger or whatever, if you use keyboard or whatever, and essentially the car will go into a drift that way. The reason why I recommend that over brake to drift is because brake to drift has been significantly nerfed in this game, so you're going to lose so much more speed if you're trying to maintain a drift. As where if you clutch kick into a corner, it's a lot easier to maintain speed, and you know, you're not going to slow down as much. If you brake to drift and you end up using that in drift events, you just can't get as much speed. It's probably not going to do much good for you. And use manual if you can. Use manual. In these clips, I'm not actually using manual because there's a little bit of a glitch in game at the moment where some of the buttons are like mapped twice and stuff. It's really weird. But yeah, using manual will go a long way in the drift event, so you can just hold angles much more, and it's just a lot easier. Anyway, with this bit all being said, let's go ahead and actually talk about what you can do in the game to actually get you better at drifting. Also, apologies if you can hear gunshots outside of my house. It sounds like I'm in Syria, but people are just, it's not even bonfire night anymore, so I don't even know why they're doing it. So in Need for Speed Heat, you kind of have to pretend your car is a pendulum. If you go over too much to the left or too much to the right, your car will spin out. This is the way it's been in Need for Speed games ever since Ghost have started doing drift physics in 2015 and the past 4 years, and that is how the drifting works in this game. So if for whatever reason you find your car isn't getting into a drift, it's because you're not balancing the pendulum right. Go too much to the right, you'll spin out. Go too much to the left, you'll spin out, or you'll just slow down to a complete halt. You don't really need to use the handbrake either. I know I see a lot of people using the handbrake. Unless it's a really sharp corner, you can pretty much get away with just using the triggers. Maintaining speed is quite important, but hands down the most important thing in this game for drifting is maintaining the balance on that pendulum. I'm going to shut up, watch this gameplay for a second, and you'll see what I mean. Notice as I'm drifting, you know, I'm not overly going too much to the left, overly going too much to the right. I'm kind of just wiggling nice and slowly. And that's another thing, you want to be doing this nice and slowly. Need for Speed Heat isn't one of those games where you're going to be drifting really fast. You'll be drifting a lot slower than you will be racing, so don't expect to be going in at mad speeds, doing mad reverse entry. It's very much about maintaining speed and maintaining the balance of this so-called pendulum. Another thing, throttle control actually matters in this game. Not to the point of like Forza or something across those lines, but you're gonna want to feather your throttle while you're in that pendulum to keep the car's back end coming out. You can see in some of this gameplay here, the car's kind of wiggling around, and that's because I am like pumping the throttle ever slowly and kind of like just guiding its way through the corner. Let's say it that way. Again, this feels really unnatural. It's not how cars handle in real life, I can assure you. You know, some might have drifted a car once or twice by accident, obviously, allegedly. But that's it. That is basically it to Need for Speed Heat's handling. The pendulum's important. That's number one. Tuning is important. Make sure all your live tuning sorted as well as your actual tuning in the garage. Number three, the throttle control really is the main important thing. The cars will drag to the side too much if you mess around with that pendulum a lot. Anyone who's actually played Need for Speed Heat and Need for Speed games generally will know what that means. If you're a bit of a newcomer, just get to grips with the initial stuff first, and then obviously if you guys want to see a more advanced tutorial for things like flicking the car out from a standstill, like you can actually do that in this game, how to use NOS and that kind of stuff, let me know and we can do that on the channel. But that's been it from me today in today's video. Not an awfully long one, there's not really much to say. What I will do at the end of this video is just leave a little bit of a gameplay that you're watching right now left over, just so you can watch it, see if you can maybe point out a few things that you might be interested in. But that's been it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys have been awesome. Stay safe and peace.